Tiger fans, what's going on? I can talk this week, so this video actually might be okay. As you can see, it's just my ugly mug this week. My little brother's not here, but shout out to him. He's been bugging me to make this video today. Shout out to my friend Steven. He watches all my videos too. So, since the last time we talked, trade deadline happened. And you guys already know where I stood. I wanted the Tigers to trade anyone and everyone that could get them any kind of value because I wanted them to just get more pieces. Now, I thought for sure Scope was going to be traded, but over the last couple of weeks, Avila had come out and said that he wasn't trading anyone that had any kind of value, or not any kind of value, but anyone that didn't help the Tigers get better, and he wasn't trying to take away from what the Tigers were currently doing, which was they had a couple of they've been playing over 500 baseball, actually the fifth best record in the American League since May. So I'm like, it doesn't sound like he's going to trade Scope. So trade deadline comes and goes, and what a trade deadline it was. You guys all being baseball fans watching my video, I'm sure you know, as I drop my iPad, sure you know what already went down, but a little recap of what happened. How about the Dodgers? The Padres were trying to get Max Scherzer, and it seemed like it was going to be a done deal thing that the Padres were getting Max Scherzer. But nope, the Dodgers out of nowhere, they come, and I think they made the move that is going to just kill what the NL West is. I know that the Giants are in first place, and I know the Giants are a very good team, and the Giants made a move themselves. They got Chris Bryant. But what the Dodgers are is they're like a team you make on MLB The Show. So if you include Trevor Bauer on their team, which I don't think he's going to pitch a pitch for them for the rest of the season, but if you include Trevor Bauer, they have 14 current/former All-Stars on their team. 14. Just let that sink in your mind for a second. How insane that a franchise can put together a team of that many players of that caliber. Now, mind you, some of those guys haven't been All-Stars in a while, like Albert Pujols or A.J. Pollock. But they're still All-Stars. It counts. They still have some kind of value. I mean, Pujols has hit double-digit home runs. He's got more home runs than Miggy does, coming off the bench and playing partial first base. So, even though Miggy's been playing a lot better, but we'll get into that. We'll touch on it in a little bit. But for them to be able to assemble a team like that, like honestly, I don't think it's worth watching because the rest of the year, because there's no way the Dodgers don't win the World Series. They're going to run through the NL. I mean, you have Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, and Max Scherzer as your 1 through 3. And you could flex your fourth with David Price if you want, or you could put him in the bullpen. In a 5-game series, that is going to be incredibly hard to beat, that 1 through 3. On top of, they got Trey Turner with it. And Trey Turner he's a top 5 shortstop in the league. Incredible defender, great speed, absolutely lightning speed, and such a good hitter. Very underrated hitter, and he's done it very quietly. He doesn't get the love that he should. And I think some of that comes because he was a center fielder for a little bit, because some guys don't remember when Trey Turner was on the come-up, the Nationals had this guy named Ian Desmond. And Ian Desmond was actually a really good player for the Nationals for a little bit. That they offered him a 5-year contract, and Desmond turned it down. And then Desmond got hurt, and Trey Turner Wally pipped him. And that was that. But Trey Turner's been really, really good for a long time. And for the Dodgers to get that, Mookie Betts came off the IL. Corey Seager is back. It's insane. The team they have assembled. And I don't really know. Like, I'm going to watch the playoffs, but I just don't see them. Even if they get hurt, when a couple of those guys get hurt, which they might, because they have a lot of injury-prone guys. It's an insane team they have assembled. The depth is nuts. But the amount of prospects they gave up to get those guys to put the super team together, if they do not win a World Series this year, which I think they're going to, I think they're a lock. If they do not win a World Series this year, holy shit, they leveraged a lot to try to win back-to-back titles. Some of the other moves that I don't think, moves that didn't make sense. The Yankees getting Anthony Rizzo and Joey Gallo. I understand what they were trying to do. Luke Floyd has been getting hurt a lot. A home run leader last year, but he's been getting hurt a lot. He's been on and off the IL almost all year. He's only played, I think, in 29 games. He's about to come off the IL, and I'm surprised they didn't trade him with Anthony Rizzo there. And then Joey Gallo, they needed an outfielder because Stanton can't play outfield because he's a China doll. So they needed another outfielder because their outfield depth this year has been terrible. They just don't have it. So, but what I don't get is they're barely the third best team in that division. So I didn't understand why they went out and they traded players to try to get good or try to do anything when the Astros exist and when the White Sox exist. And the White Sox, this was them trading Nick Madrigal. That actually super surprised me because Nick is a really good hitter and he's super fast. He's a good defender. So I was really surprised that they dumped him for Craig Kimbrell. I understand he's hurt, and I know he's not going to play for the rest of this year. But as much as people are going to be shitting on the Cubs, I think what they did, they traded everyone: Baez, Bryant, Rizzo, Kimbrell. They traded everyone of value. They went full teardown. They didn't do it like the Tigers did, where the Tigers were like, okay, so we'll trade up Yoenis Cespedes, but we'll try to be good next year. And then it took them trading. Then they traded David Price. And then when they traded JD, they're finally like, okay, let's tear this up. And then Upton fell. And the chips all started to fall after that. They're waiting for the contracts to fall off with V-Mart and Jordan Zimmerman and all that other shit. So, but they got a lot of good players in return. And I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think they will be for as long as they will be. Because they're going to have a lot of payroll flexibility and they can still sign those guys back. But what a crazy trade deadline. It was definitely one of the better trade deadlines I've seen in the last 10 years. Like I can't remember moves of that magnitude. I mean, you always get one every single year, that's a decently big move. Like when Greinke went to Houston or when JV went to Houston, that was a big one. Greinke's actually been a trade deadline a couple of times because I remember when the Brewers traded him to the Angels. So he's been a few times. But to have that kind of magnitude and how the Dodgers and Padres and Giants are all just throwing blows at one another. And then, the White Sox getting even deeper because they're really good. It was a hell of a trade deadline. So it was a lot of fun. But the Tigers, they only made one move. They traded Daniel Norris to the Milwaukee Brewers. It doesn't really do anything. Basically, because Ian Kroll has been back. In the major leagues, Daniel Norris was kind of out of a job because if you look at, so when they got Daniel Norris, he came into a Tigers farm system that was absolutely depleted. I mean, there wasn't much left when Daniel Norris, I think he was probably a top 2 or 3 prospect. You guys, if you can remember who was in the system at that time, I'm trying to think because I think they traded him in 2015 and him, Matthew Boyd were both in the same trade, and then some Jair LeBout guy was in there. But I don't think that he was better than Fulmer was probably their top prospect at that time. But it's irrelevant. But he was looked upon as the guy that he was the centerpiece of the David Price trade. He had already made his debut with the Blue Jays. He was supposed to be a guy that was helped to breathe new life into the Tigers pitching staff for the future because, they didn't know if JV was going to be around for the rest of his contract. And, the writing was on the wall about the rebuilds. And, Matthew Boyd was a nice piece because he was a back end of the rotation guy, what they said. But looking at that trade overall, Daniel Norris was hurt every single year. He was okay in his piggyback starter role, but he always had problems with walks. He never was able to get guys out of a lineup more than 2 times, really more than 1 time. His velocity dipped almost right away coming from the Blue Jays. And really, it didn't take long for the writing to be on the wall that Norris was going to be a bust. I mean, I remember he played a game in Chicago where he pitched. I think it was his second or third career start because I want to say his first start with the Tigers. I want to say his first start with the Tigers was in Baltimore against the Orioles. And then it was like his third start ever with the Tigers, or it might have been his second, and they were in Chicago. It was an interleague game. It was a Sunday night baseball game, and he hit a home run because they were wearing their gray jerseys for like the 40s throwback. And he got hurt that same game. And it's pretty much been that almost the entirety of Daniel Norris's Tiger career. And they tried putting him in the bullpen to try helping save his arm so he could, contribute, but that didn't work. And he never really could make it back to the rotation. And they tried that piggyback stuff, and that had mixed results. So I don't really know why the Brewers are getting him. I'm not super familiar with their whole depth of their bullpen. I know the back end of their bullpen is really good with Hader and whatnot. And then their top 3 starters is just insane. So I don't really know what they're going to do with him, but the trade didn't really do anything to affect the Tigers. They were trying to move Michael Fulmer. Avila said that there was really no packages there that they wanted, and he was pretty adamant about if a trade they made did not make the Tigers better right now, or it was going to hurt them winning right now because they're not in a rebuild, that he was not going to make the trade. And he did. I mean, he stood to his word, and he stood pat, and that's what all the Tigers did. So am I mad about it? No. I mean, this is going to sound like blasphemy to some Tiger fans, but I really don't care. I really don't want them to sign Jonathan Scope, long term. All I see is a guy, who's 30, he's going to be on the wrong side of 30 for most of it, the rest of the deal. He's versatile. He can play first and second, but he's kind of, playing above his career norms right now for the streak he's been on. And I don't know if he's worth the investment. Last time the Tigers did something like this where they signed a guy, now mind you, Victor Martinez was 36 when they did this, and it was such a shitty move, but they signed V-Mart to that 5-year deal, or that 4-year deal, and it was an albatross. It was just, it hurt them so much. Now, I really don't want them to sign him because I don't know, I don't see how he's going to be with his age and having a career year like he's having right now. I just don't see why the Tigers who just shuttered all this payroll, would want to start their next chapter when they're winning with how big the free agent market's going to be for middle infielders this year. Because with all the shortstops, they could easily, get a shortstop and then move one of their shortstop prospects over to second or find a decent second baseman. They just shuttered all this bad payroll. And Mickey's their only bad contract left, and they have a lot of room to spend. But I don't know why they would want to go, and their first move they make is signing someone who's 30-plus years old, who is on a career year, who's never shown this kind of consistency from year to year to year, and that's your first move out of the official not rebuilding anymore. That seems just like a move like something like Dombrowski would make, and then you're stuck with a bad contract. Say you sign him for a 5-year deal or 4-year deal, and he's bad for 4 of the 5 years, and then you're stuck with a guy that you have to play every single day, and it's a Miggy contract, but not as extreme dollar value. Because he's probably going to want, upwards of $16, $17 million a year with how good he's playing this year. And I just don't think that when you just already cleared up all this payroll and you finally gotten a flexibility point, why would you want to sign someone of that age when you have such a big free agent market and other players, on the come up? So I don't know. Am I happy he's here? Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool to see the Tigers finish 500 this year. They're 7 games under, and they cooled off for sure since that 7-game win streak. But I don't know. The last couple years have been nice because the Tigers have been able to get him really cheap. But he's the age. They've already shut in the payroll. I just don't know if that's a smart move coming right out of a rebuild, to start signing guys of that kind, and especially with the year he's having and the money he's going to want. So I don't know. I think they should just play that cautiously. Like even Robbie Grossman, it's nice because he's still cheap for next year too. But yeah, that's really about it for the Tigers trade deadline. Nothing really happened. It's going to be same old for the rest of the year. Same crop of guys, same dudes, and, let's hope they get the 500. So let's kind of talk about the week that was before I kind of touch on things that's going on with the Tigers. So since we last talked, the Tigers, they got swept by Kansas City. They actually went on a 4-game losing streak, and they actually lost the first game in Minnesota. And then the second game, which was the Tuesday game, Eric Haas hit a game-tying grand slam, which is the second time that's happened this year for the Tigers. You guys remember a couple weeks ago when they got swept in Minnesota, Jake Rogers hit that go-ahead grand slam in the 9th, and they lost that game. I don't ever want to relive that series again because I got so fucking pissed. So they won that game 6-5, and then they beat Minnesota 17-14. It was like a Lions-Vikings game. I was at work. That was a day game. I was at work, and my friend texted me. He's like, man, you see this Tigers game right now? They hit 7 home runs, and they almost fucking blew the game. Like, it was really, really close. It was 13-12, and then the Tigers ended up putting a couple more runs on the board, and they still almost blew it. It was 17-14. It was it was an NFL game. That ball was flying that day in Minnesota. So then Baltimore, which is the series that finished up today, Baltimore came in for 4. Game 1, Casey Mize pitched. Kid's a stud. Absolute stud. The Tigers have 3 guys that are going to be in the top 10 of Rookie of the Year voting between Akil Baddoo, Eric Haas, and Casey Mize. There's cases for, Akil Baddoo to win it. There's cases for Eric Haas to win it, because especially with Eric Haas's power and how good he's been and how versatile. But then, you look at Akil Baddoo. He's starting to find his power stroke a little bit more. He's just been so good anywhere you put him on and in the outfield and whatnot. And his speed, his ability to steal bases. And then Casey Mize, how much he's grown this year. How good his start-to-start consistency has been this year. The way his strikeouts have gone up and his walks have gone down, and his composure on the mound, and adjusting to big leagues. Because like last year, I genuinely thought after that he pitched so bad last year that I came on here and I said I didn't think, and there was people I used to talk to about the Tigers. I was like, they need to send him down to start the season. And he got his head knocked in spring training. I'm like, he needs to go down because he was so reliant on a splitter. He couldn't throw first pitch fastballs. He didn't have a third pitch to get out, and guys were crushing him. But you know something? I was wrong in my assertion that I thought that he should have started in the minors. He didn't start out the year the hottest, but he figured it out in the big leagues. And looking back at it with hindsight 2020, I see what the Tigers did. They wanted him to take his lumps in the big leagues versus the minors where he was going to dominate. He needed to adjust to big league pitching. It needed to be a time of, hey, you're in the big leagues now, kid. This is what it is. Hitters adjust to you game to game, batter to batter. They see what you're doing. And you're a 1-1, and we expect you to be the guy, our ace of the future. So you need to take your lumps in the big leagues. And if you can't do it and you get knocked in for too long, you're going to go back down. And they let him figure it out. And, hey, kudos to Casey. He really got the way he... Now his ability to throw the first pitch strike with his fastball and his velocity has ticked up, I noticed this year too. His velocity's looked a little bit better. He wasn't throwing as hard as he was. Not being so heavy reliant on his splitter, because when he was really reliant heavily on his splitter, he tried to throw a lot of splitters for strikes. And that's not a pitch you want to throw for strikes. That's a pitch you want to consistently throw for a ball, because the splitter that's up is a splitter that's getting hit. And you want to throw that ball down in the dirt as much as possible, but you can't throw that pitch in the dirt when you're down behind the count. So you got to get ahead with your fastball. And that was the thing. He was trying to throw it for strikes a lot, and you don't want to try to make that your strike one pitch. You want to make it your fastball. You want to make that your out pitch, and it's so good. His splitter is that good. It's an elite splitter. It's that's not the pitch you're trying to get guys to strike one. But it also has helped that he's got that little cut slider thing. That's become a really good pitch for him too. So the Tigers have done a really nice job of finding some gems this year. Everyone that shit on Avila, particularly like you listen to radio personalities and stuff and read articles of how many people at the start of this year when they were 9-24, people wanted Avila gone. But if you look at some of these moves that he's directly made, especially with the rookies, letting Mize figure it out in the big leagues, and Akil Baddoo and Eric Haas, he deserves some credit, but they won't give him credit. So the next 2 games, Matt Harvey pitched that one, the second game of the series, and Harvey pitched really well. The Tigers almost came back and scored. They had the tying runs on in the 9th inning. They didn't even get any runs till the 8th, 9th. Matt Harvey pitched really good, which doesn't make any sense because he's terrible now. But he's actually on almost a 20-inning scoreless streak. And then Game 3 was much of the same. The Tigers were getting shut down by John Means, and they started to get some rallies together. And we're going to talk about particularly why this game looked like the way it did. And then the last game of today was Tyler Alexander started, and I thought he was going to get his head knocked in. He had 3 doubles against him in the first inning, all of the dead center field, and then the Tigers ambushed that kid who used to pitch for the Tigers in his minor league system, in our minor league system. They got him back for 3, and then they held the game the rest of the way through, and they ended up winning 6-2. Now, I want to talk particularly about this Orioles series, a couple of things, because this video is almost 20 minutes long, and I don't want to make you guys listen to me ramble for too much longer. We need to talk about a couple of things, though, that's been really irritating me. First off, let's talk about something positive. Miggy had 2 home runs. That one game, they won 6-2. He's only 3 away. He's at 497 from 500. He's only 1 hit away from, I think, Frank Robinson on the hits list. So, and he's been hitting almost 300 the last 2 months. He's been hitting really well. His swing, I've noticed, You know, when Miggy was Miggy, he's a right center guy. He always was gaps. He's never been a pull hitter. You know, if you look at Miggy's spray chart, he's always been a gap-to-gap guy, particularly when Miggy's going really good. He's putting balls in right field and right center. And his double powers have been coming back, too. And I think there was a stat that Miguel Cabrera is looking to become the third player ever with Hank Aaron and I forget the second, and Albert Pujols that had 600 doubles, 600 doubles, 500 home runs, and 3,000 hits. Only the third player ever, just to show you how special Miguel Cabrera is. Now, let's talk about what's been bothering me and something needs to be done. Zach Short. So Matt Manning pitched this game, and we're in the 6th inning, and there's 2 on, 1 out. Or 2 on, 2 out. A ball is hit right to Zach Short. Zach Short fields the ball, throws to Willie Castro. Willie Castro bobbles it. The throw was a little low, but it hit Willie Castro right in the upper groin area in the lower midsection of his stomach. If you are a major league player, especially Willie Castro coming up as a shortstop, someone that knows how to field ground balls. I understand he's new to second base. You have to make that catch because the following hitter with the bases loaded hit a bloop single to right and scored 2 more runs. It made Matt Manning's really good start look like total shit when he pitched really well. Now, I'm still a little bit concerned about Matt Manning because I've said this a million times and I'm going to continue to say it. Matt Manning in the minor leagues struck out over a hit, almost, I think, over a hitter per 9. I think his strikeout rate, let's see. He averaged, I want to say, at least 8.5 to 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. This year, I don't know how long it's going to take me to look up, but this year, Matt Manning, his strikeout rate has been absolutely just abysmal. It hasn't been there. So we'll go to baseball references. Bear with me right here. Baseball. Let's type in Matt Manning. And my reason for concern is I know that he's been getting a lot of soft contact, and I know he's been going at least, 5 innings a game, and he's been going deep in there. But you can't survive on this strikeout rate that he's having. So right now, Matt Manning he's got a 4.7 strikeout to 9. Now his walk rate is 3 walks per 9. That's fine. He's averaging only 1.5 strikeouts to every walk. Career in the minor leagues. Let's get this. Hide majors. Career in the minor leagues. He was 10 strikeouts per 9. He's down 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He used to average 3.6 strikeouts to every walk. Now he's 1.5. And my concern is the ball's getting put in play on him so much. Now, mind you, it's been really light contact and he's done a good job, but Matt Manning's not a contact pitcher. Matt Manning's a strikeout guy. He's had as many as 154 strikeouts. He's had as many as 100 2 times in 5 years? And that was in how many innings? Let's look here. 117 innings. What was this? In 2018, he had 154 strikeouts. In 2019, in 133 innings, he had 148. You can't be in the big leagues and strike out 4 hitters per 9. You can't. Unless you're Justin Masterson or back in the day or Derek Lowe back in the day or Brandon Webb. It just doesn't work in modern day baseball today. But I do want to say something that might be the shining light that I have noticed. Yes, he's been getting a lot of contact, and yes, I'm still very worried about his strikeouts being down so low when this is a guy that has averaged 10 strikeouts per 9 innings in the minor leagues. But his fastball command has cleaned way up. His ability to go in and out of the strike zone has been spectacularly better. And he's really mixing in his curveball slider. And I think once he's able to consistently throw his curveball and slider to be tempting pitches that are actually pitches that guys are going to swing at. Because it seems like with Matt Manning with his curveball, he's either able to give a good lollipop one to steal strike one, or he short arms it and it's up in the zone and he misses. And it's the same thing with his slider. He has not been able yet to figure out how to make it a strikeout pitch, which he's done in the minors because he's got a great fastball. He's got so much life on his fastball. But he has not, in the major league level, has not been able to figure out how to make that pitch a strikeout weapon yet because he's either throwing it for a get-me-over strike, stealing a strike, or it's a ball. It's a non-competitive pitch. The same thing with the slider. But with his fastball cleaning up and he's throwing more strikes, I just think it's a matter of time for this kid figures it out, and we see. I'm not going to say right now, right off the gate, he's going to have 10, but I think we're going to see 7, 8 per 9. It's going to be a little bit more like that. I think he's still figuring it out, but considering how bad his year was in the minors before he came up, I mean, he was getting his head knocked in, and the fact that he's been able to come up and at least pitch, what's his ERA right now with the Tigers? I mean, he had an 8 ERA before he came up in the big leagues, so right now he's had a 5.59 ERA and 38 innings. I mean, it's not a beautiful ERA, but some of that stuff has been hurt by shitty defense and whatnot. With him pitching to so much contact and not having much help from his defense right now, his ERA is higher. If he was striking out more guys per 9, obviously a retard, more outs, lower ERA. He was striking out more guys per 9 and not letting the ball get put in play as much and getting fucked by some of these cheap hits. His ERA would probably be somewhere in the mid-4s, I bet. So he's definitely getting hurt by that. But I am liking what I'm seeing with his command. I'm just waiting for him to turn the corner. Now, another thing I want to get off my chest before we end this is Zach Short. I love his podcast. The Compound Podcast is such a great podcast. And I want him to do so good. But the dude is like in a 2 for 29 slump. He gets up there, he's 0-2 right away. And the amount he's been striking out is insane. I'm going to look up right now what his strikeouts were. And when he does put the ball in play, it's a fly out to right field. If it wasn't for his ability to play shortstop, how he's been able to play shortstop, I don't think there is a snowflake's chance in hell that this kid would be in the big leagues right now, considering he's 26. He's struck out 40 times in 116 plate appearances and only walked 16. He's got a 276 on base and he's slugging 354. That is so bad. If it was not for his glove, he would be in the minors. But right now, the Tigers' infield defense is so bad that, well, particularly at shortstop, that they have no choice but to keep him there. But they got to do something. I understand, that Nico Goodrum's on his way back up. And one thing's for sure, as much as I don't think Nico Goodrum is that good of a player, and I don't think he's been as good as people have thought he's been for the last couple of years, they need Nico Goodrum up just solely for the fact that they can let Zach Short take some rest for some of these games, because I honestly think he's seeing too many at-bats. I think that he's having too many at-bats. He's slumping so bad that he's in his head. He's not picking up the ball. And when he is making contact, it's bad because he's missing pitches right now that are sliders that are just hanging over the middle of the plate. Like when he had that little bit of an okay streak where he hit that grand slam and he had a homer a couple weeks ago when he was at least having some kind of extra base power, because he's got 5 home runs and 3 doubles, so he's got 7 extra base hits, and he plays a good shortstop, but. You got to get more than that. You can't have this guy. And right now with Isaac Paredes, he's on the come up, but he's hurt and not on the team. Nico Goodrum not on the team right now. They're having no choice but to let this kid go out there when I think he really needs a couple of days off to let him just kind of reset, because he plays such a good shortstop. But with having no middle infield depth right now. And, Willie Cash was out there and playing Ryan Rayburn style second base when Ryan Rayburn was a second baseman for a little bit, which was holy fuck bad. He's searching for it, and he just does not know. I think if someone needs a day off, really a couple of day break, maybe sit him 2-3 days, just let that kid reset, it's Zach Short. Because you got to do something to get this kid's back going again, especially if you're going to give him regular ABs. I mean, he's already accumulated over 100 ABs. And he's hitting 167. You got to get more than that out of someone. I don't care how good he could have fucking Omar Vizquel defense out there. You got to get more than that out of the stick. And I think right now the Tigers are victim of circumstance with how thin their middle infield defense is right now, with Goodrum being hurt and Isaac Paredes being hurt. And they need to be back up. Not because I think, Nico's a great player. I do like Isaac Paredes. But they need to give Zach Short a blow. He needs to sit down for a couple games because he just looks terrible at the plate. So now, after this series of Baltimore, 7 games under 500. Let me get my schedule back up here. We go back to wrap this up. So we start a big series. 3 games set with the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox come up for 3 games. Willie Peralta, Garrett Richards, game 1. Garrett Richards is a guy who's a victim of his sicky stuff. No longer has spider tact, and now he sucks ass. He's been getting lit up. Game 2 is Casey Mize at Eduardo Rodriguez. So that's going to be a good one. Casey Mize, 6-5 with a 3.41 ERA with 87 Ks. What a fucking stud that kid's been. And mind you, his innings have been limited too. So he'd have over 100 strikeouts by now if it wasn't for that. And then the third game is going to be Tarek Skubal, who's been getting absolutely hit for a lot of home runs lately, against Martin Perez. So, and then after that, by the time my next video will be here, they will have played 3 more games in Cleveland. I really would like to go up to Cleveland and see them play, but I don't know if I want to drive 3 hours up to Cleveland. So that's all I got for you guys today. Trade deadline was uneventful for the Tigers. Band's still out together. They're going to ride it out the rest of the year. Try to jump Cleveland, try to get back up to 500 and jump them. Let's see, Cleveland is 51-51, exactly at 500. The Tigers are 51-57. So that's kind of crazy. We already got that many more games played than them. I think they might have had a COVID thing going on at the start of the year. But that'd be a good chance for them to jump them, get into second place. So we got Boston for 3, which is going to be a tough series because the Red Sox are good. I'm excited to see Alex Verdugo and Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. And then they got Cleveland for 3, and then I'll be back here to recap the series that was. So uneventful trade deadline. Don't really care that Daniel Norris is gone. Zach Short needs a break. Let's get Miggy to 500 and a little bit closer to 3,000. And, yeah, let's go Tigers. See you guys next week.